Hey everyone, it's Dominic from DeRose Knows, and welcome to my new series called What the Flunk. Here I'm going to look into a variety of things that didn't do as well as expected, such as movies, music, TV shows, and a variety of different products. I'm going to try and look deeper into why they didn't do so well. I won't necessarily be giving a solution to the problem, but more just talking about what are some of the reasons that I believe something didn't do as well as expected. To start the series off, I'm going to look into why Blade Runner 2049 did so poorly at the box office. Blade Runner 2049, probably my favorite movie to come out in 2017 so far. It's an audio, visual, and storytelling masterpiece.
I always told you. You're special.
I went into this movie expecting a great movie. I was excited to see it because I loved the first one so much, but when I left, I was in awe. This movie gave me an experience not many movies have. I'm happy to say that I got two of these experiences this year, the first one being Dunkirk. Now 3 weeks after the movie's initial release, I'm disappointed to learn that it didn't do well at the box office. Blade Runner 2049 had a big budget of $185 million, but only managed to earn approximately $195 million worldwide, and that's 3 weeks after its initial release. We're still waiting to see how it's going to do in the Chinese market though. These numbers leave me wondering, how? How can a movie with such a massive cult following, so much hype around it, and is doing so well with the critics barely manage to make its money back after 3 weeks? $195 million is not a small number by any means, but when you look at movies like Jurassic World, which had a budget of $150 million and managed to bring in $1.67 billion, that's billion with a B, I'm left scratching my head. This really interested me, and I started to think a lot about it. What did Blade Runner do wrong? Well, I've thought a lot about it, and here are some of the reasons I think it did so poorly. The Blade Runner 2049 trailers generated a lot of hype for the movie, and were very well received overall. But despite the hype they generated, I think that they are a major part, if not the main reason, for the movie's poor box office performance. The trailers were very visually driven. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but moviegoers have been burned in the past with movies that had very visually driven trailers that ended up lacking substance or any good story. Valerian is one that comes to mind. The trailers were also all very similar. I watched all the trailers multiple times, and to this day I cannot tell which trailers are which. They all seem like the same trailer repackaged in different ways. Take for example the trailers for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I haven't watched those trailers in over a year, and I can almost guarantee that I'll be able to tell you which one's which. Each Star Wars trailer was very distinct, and showed the viewer more without being too story heavy. This is what Blade Runner could have done. I have to give the trailers some credit though. After rewatching them multiple times, it's apparent that they were trying to push the idea that Deckard is a replicant and is being hunted down. I give them credit for capitalizing on this very popular fan theory, but despite this, the trailers leave me wanting much more. In actuality, they made Blade Runner 2049 seem like it would be a repeat of the first one, where Blade Runner is just hunting down various replicants while falling in love with another. The trailers also hid the fact that Ryan Gosling himself was a replicant. I can't say for sure, but I truly believe that the trailers would have been much better and much more intriguing, making people want to see the movie more if some of the actual story was hinted at.
I guess we'll never know.
Blade Runner 2049 is a movie that didn't just try to capitalize on the cult following of the first one. When I heard that a new Blade Runner movie was going to be released, I was first excited, but then I started to worry a little bit. I started to worry because this movie could easily tarnish the Blade Runner name. I had a slight fear in my mind that the studio was just trying to capitalize on the first movie's success and would release a mediocre movie. I'm glad to say this fear did not come true. Blade Runner 2049 had a story that felt like it needed to be told, not just a story that was tacked on to the first one. I think I actually prefer the story of 2049 to the original. I can't stress enough how good 2049 was. That being said, Blade Runner 2049 definitely required you to see the original one to make any true sense of the overall story arc. This became apparent when the initial reviews came out, and when the first people who saw it started to tell you about it. Sure, you can watch a recap of the first movie on YouTube, but that won't get you the true hype and feeling of the original. The environment, the sounds, the pacing, and just the overall vibe of the original is one of the reasons why it was so special. But knowing that you have to watch the original to truly appreciate or understand the overarching story of Blade Runner 2049 definitely has an impact when it comes to seeing the new movie. Having said that this movie requires you to have watched the first one to truly appreciate it, seems like a little bit of a deterrent. But when you find out that the original Blade Runner had 7 different cuts, it becomes much less of a simple task. The original Blade Runner had 7 different cuts, with the 3 most popular being the theatrical release, the director's cut, and the final cut. The final cut is the one that gained most of the mainstream acceptance, but that doesn't change the fact that this whole situation is very confusing. For a moviegoer wanting to rewatch or just watch for the first time the original Blade Runner leading up to 2049's release, one could expect to be greeted by a variety of different articles and debates on which original Blade Runner cut to watch. This is very confusing and definitely impacted the box office numbers of the new movie in some way. Blade Runner 2049 was a long movie. 2 hours and 44 minutes to be exact. Personally, I enjoyed every single minute of it. But with a runtime like this, I don't see it being appealing to the average moviegoer. You'd have to be a true fan to sit through that kind of length. I thought I'd have more to say about this point, but that's pretty much it. It's a long-ass movie. In this last section, I'm just going to spew out a bunch of other issues I think caused the box office results of Blade Runner 2049 to not do as well as expected. So here we go. Ryan Gosling has been taking more serious roles lately that have been showing off his acting chops, and I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. He has become one of my favorite actors in the past 2 years. He's still seen as a good-looking dude, but isn't put in the stereotypical chick flick roles. In recent years, we've seen him in movies such as Nice Guys, The Big Short, Gangster Squad, and many more that have been pushing his acting skills and solidifying him as a really good actor. Because of this, I feel that Blade Runner 2049 may not have appealed to women as much as the studio would have hoped for. The studio did little to push the short films. The short films were great, but there wasn't a huge push for them. Most people that have seen the movie that I talked to didn't even know the short films existed. You might be learning about the short films for the first time, so I'll link them below in the description. The short films left me wanting to see the movie more. I was excited to see Blade Runner 2049, but after watching the short films, I became much more excited because they were used as a prologue to the feature film. If these short films were pushed a bit more in the marketing campaign, instead of repackaging the same trailer in 4 different ways, I'm sure people would have been more interested in seeing the movie. The original film was not a box office or critical hit either. This is most likely due to the theatrical cut of the movie. To put it lightly, I watched parts of it, and it had voiceovers. Really cheesy voiceovers. It's almost as if the studio thought the movie was so complex that they had to spoon-feed the information to the viewer. Because the original only gained popularity in later years, it didn't gain a massive enough following to truly make the new movie extremely successful. I'm sure there are other reasons why this movie underperformed at the box office, but these are the ones I could think of and the ones I think had the biggest impact. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.